Please welcome to the stage Dr. Jonathan Cox, Vice President for the Center for Policy Analysis and Research at the CBCF.
Greetings, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing well as we're finishing up the last day of sessions for this incredible ALC. As was said, my name is Dr. Jonathan Cox, and I'm the Vice President here for our Center for Policy Analysis and Research at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. And I'm honored to welcome you to, again, one of the final days of what's happening for ALC 54 this year. Now, since its founding, the annual legislative conference has served as CBCF's flagship platform for addressing critical issues that Black communities face. Now, as the nation's largest public policy conference that is focused on issues that are important for Black communities, ALC remains a vital site of innovation, thought leadership, and activism. Now, our theme for this year that you all have been seeing all over the place, made for this moment, Power, Policy, and Progress, is both timely and timeless. Black communities have long endured inequality with dignity, serving as architects of justice and protectors of American democracy. Now, despite today's social and political challenges, we continue to press forward, ensuring that our power is not just recognized, but it is harnessed to create meaningful change for all. Now, in CPAR, or the Center for Policy Analysis and Research, our role is to strengthen that movement through rigorous policy research and analysis. We work every day to inform debates, shape ideas, and elevate solutions that matter to Black America. This session, it brings that life to work. You will hear insights from thought leaders, innovators, and practitioners who are deeply engaged in advancing equity. Their dedication is a testament to what it means to be made for this moment, and we are thankful for their continued service. I also wanted to take this time to acknowledge our session partner, the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. The Joint Center exemplifies a deep commitment to issues of racial equity and the uplift of Black communities, and so we thank them for their dedication, and for their ongoing support and partnership in this work. And now, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing someone who will be known to you all, who will bring forth a few remarks, Representative Yvette D. Clarke. Now, she has served as the 9th District, clap it up, give her that applause, yes. She's serving the 9th District of New York, and she's been in the U.S. House of Representatives since 2007. Before her election, she was a New York City Council member. So please join me in welcoming Brooklyn's own Representative Yvette D. Clarke.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly my honor, my privilege to be here. I want to first thank our CBCF President and CEO, Nicole Austin Hillary, and then thank Dr. Jonathan Cox. Come on, give it up for Dr. Cox, please. And the CPAR team for convening this session, and thank you for all of you for joining us this afternoon. It is an honor to be here for this critical conversation on artificial intelligence and the future of work. This is not just about technology, but about justice, equity, and the financial future of Black America. If you agree with that, clap one more time. As AI shapes our economy, we have an opportunity to harness its power, to advance equity, and to build on progress generations have fought to achieve. That's why I've introduced legislation like the Algorithmic Accountability Act of 2025, which requires companies to assess, disclose, and the impact of AI systems used in critical areas like employment, housing, and education. Transparency and accountability must be the foundation of any AI-driven future. I'm so proud to serve on the House's bipartisan AI task force, where I continue to push for guardrails that protect our communities, not just from the bias and disinformation, but from being left behind in the innovative economy. The CBC is often referred to as the conscience of the Congress, and we are committed to advancing legislation that equips Black communities with the tools to succeed in today's labor market. The Black Policy Playbook lays out a bold vision for this future. It calls for investments in tech education, workforce development, and digital infrastructure in Black communities. It demands that we center racial equity in every AI policy conversation, from the classroom to the boardroom to Capitol Hill. So let me be clear. Black people are not just consumers of technology. We are creators. We are innovators. We are leaders. And we need policies that reflect that truth. We need training pipelines that reach our youth, protections that uphold our dignity, and investments that unlock our full potential. The theme of ALC 54, or 54th Annual, is made for this moment. And it is critical that Black communities can adapt and embrace emerging technologies. I'm excited to continue this work and grateful to be in the fight with and for all of you. So buckle your seats. You're in for a really great ride. These folks who will be on this panel are gonna blow your mind. So hold on to your domes, as the young people say, and get ready. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the ALC.
Please welcome to the stage Dr. Ashley Stewart, AIR Health Equity Fellow, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.
Hello, everyone. I have this distinct pleasure of introducing our moderator for today's panel. Danielle A. Davis serves as Director of Technology Policy at the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, where she leads national research and advocacy on broadband access and affordability, algorithmic fairness, and AI. Danielle also hosts the Miseducation of Technology podcast, which equips listeners with tools to navigate the digital age. Most recently, Danielle was named an AI policy influencer by the Brookings Institution and was selected for the inaugural cohort of Harvard Law School's executive education program, AI and the Law, Navigating the New Legal Landscape. Please give Danielle a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Like it was just announced, my name is Danielle Davis. I am the Director of Technology Policy for the Joint Center, and you are in for a great conversation, like the Congresswoman said. And I want to go ahead and start introducing our panelists. So first up is Darrell Booker. Give him a round of applause, everybody. Darrell Booker is a 30-year technology leader bringing innovation, culture, and community impact. From developing enterprise applications to leading Microsoft's nonprofit tech acceleration program, he's empowered thousands of organizations with digital transformation strategies. Today, he partners with corporations, creators, and change makers to harness technology for storytelling, equity, and lasting social good as principal and head strategist at Seven and Grace. Darrell furthers his impact by sharing insights and inspiring change, serving proudly on the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Racial Equity Task Force. So let's give Darrell another round of applause. We also have Ijoma Umbamalu. Give her a round of applause, everybody, come on. And she is the inaugural Chief Technology Officer for the ACLU, where she is responsible for defining strategies that allow the ACLU to operate its data systems, improve fundraising, accrue more supporters, and get its message out into the world. Ijoma is responsible for conducting cutting-edge social science research and audits to advance legal actions, understand public opinion, empower advocates with information, and optimize the ACLU's fundraising and communications operations. Ijoma is also a board director at the Knowledge House, an education to employment pipeline incubator for underserved individuals in the Bronx, Newark, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. So let's give her another round of applause. And last but definitely not least, I want to introduce Dr. Nicole Turner Lee. She is let's give her a round of applause, come on. She is a senior fellow in governance studies, the director of the Center for Technology Innovation, and co-editor of the Tech Talk blog and podcast, the Brookings Institution, which is a global think tank headquartered in Washington, D.C. She is also the founder of the AI Equity Lab House within the CTI. She is also the author of the book Digitally Invisible: How the Internet is Creating the New Underclass, and has appeared throughout various news media, testified before Congress and international global governance bodies, and written extensively on tech and telecom issues. So let's give her a round of applause. So today I kind of want to just set the stage. So this question is for all of our panelists, and we'll start with Darrell and we'll go down to Nicole. So let's begin. AI is transforming every sector of the economy. From your perspective, what are the most pressing opportunities and risks that AI presents for Black workers in today's labor market?
First of all, I'm very much a glass half full person, so I'll answer the opportunities. Someone is approaching 30th year full-time in tech. I have not seen any piece of technology come out that could be as positively disruptive as AI. The ability to level the playing field so quickly, to really make sure that as we think of workers, they can be able to get the skills that they need really quickly. Some people don't think of how AI can really help to disseminate education at a fast level, where someone may not be in a situation to afford continuing education classes. They may be in a situation to where they need to care for children or a loved one, and the most they can do is sit behind a computer. AI can really, really bring so much to people, honestly, in the palm of their hands.
Absolutely. And Ijoma, you have thoughts to offer for this question?
Hi, can you hear me okay? Great question. Like my colleague here mentioned, on the opportunities front, I'll say really quickly that, yes, the advent of new tech like generative AI can supercharge access for Black folks, workers, students alike, who may be looking for a second act, right? And may have been shut out from the traditional paths due to financial constraints or what have you. However, there is a lot of there's still more to be seen. There's still not a lot of research out there that actually speak prolifically to the idea that these platforms can indeed close the gaps, can indeed provide Black workers with access. So I'm hopeful, I'm excited about the opportunities, but just also noting that while these platforms are alleged to bridge the gap, we do need a lot more research to be able to substantiate that. On the risk side, I would say really quickly, the ACLU has been leading the charge in terms of auditing of AI-enabled systems for far too long. We do know that algorithmic tools are used in hiring to make decisions about who gets a job. Individuals like myself will not be in the role that I am today as the lead technologist for a civil rights organization, I think, if a human being didn't review my resume. And so we've been auditing these systems for a long time. Those biases still persist, and so I still see algorithmic bias as a significant risk in these tools.
So this is an interesting question, and I'll try not to be a Debbie Downer, so I'll start with opportunities, because I actually want to go to risk, but I'm going to follow the trajectory to make sure I'm not by myself. So obviously, AI is going to transform the way we live, learn, and earn, and that's going to disrupt basically every sector that we have. So it doesn't matter where you work today, there will be AI integrated into your work, whether you're in healthcare, education, whether you work in retail, right? There will be opportunities that AI will actually sneak in, and we actually might not even know it, but our jobs will be better tasked to perform. Meaning, I'm gonna date myself, when I worked at Burger King, we had a cash register. Young people who don't always know how to count math and them brown pennies, they use a computer now when you actually go into a food service place, right? So AI is going to do things like make it very clear if you are at the register, for example, using the computer, that we have no more burgers in the back. And it's going to allow people within businesses to manage the supply chain and sort of place people in the right moments. And guess what? That's healthy for the economy, although it changes the shape and the nature of how work is performed. For Black folks, we are usually last hired and first fired. And so that's actually going to impact where we fall in the labor market. And that's the concern that I have. I mean, Joint Center many, many years ago put out research that suggested with the advent of AI that we were going to see a lot of terminations and shaping. And really, most of us have these conversations daily about the impact of artificial intelligence on the labor market and the jobs that will be eliminated. I find it interesting, however, if you have this with Fortune 500 companies, they cannot tell you which jobs are going to be eliminated. In fact, 5 companies dictated to them that they were going to change the nature of their workforce. So I do think it's really important for us to think about vulnerable workers as well as white-collar workers, Black folks who work as paralegals, lawyers, supply chain, logistic managers. We will all be affected in some way or form. So for me, that presents itself as a risk because we really don't have clear, like it's been said, information on how this is going to impact our community. And I would just say this, the challenge of the labor force impacts means that we will widen the wealth gap that exists within our community. Because when you're not hired and able to provide for your families, that means you can't pay your bills, you can't afford the luxuries of life, or whatever it is to actually keep food on your table. If AI is the decision maker, for me, that's also the residual effect of all of this.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm labeled as a chief disruptor, so I may come back at you. But I agree a lot with what you're saying around the risk as it relates to the labor workers. But personally, I see that as an opportunity. And the reason I said that is there are so many of people that are sitting here that at some point in their life said, hey, I need to upskill myself. The knowledge that I have is not enough. You know, I need to learn more, continuing education, the things of that sort. And honestly, there's a lot of people that are complacent in their roles. So yes, will AI replace some lower skilled, lower paid jobs? Absolutely. But I hope our Black people thrive to be more than having those lower skilled, lower paid jobs. And is this an opportunity for people to see how they can reinvent themselves?
Okay, you gotta just turn it back to me for just a second. We're gonna come back to you. Let me just give that little ping pong real quick. So I agree with you, right?
All right.
I do agree with you. We family. We're not gonna argue up on this stage, right? But I want to suggest though too, which is the subject of my book. I actually am selling them in the exhibit hall by the podcast booth.
Okay.
The challenge that we have digitally invisible Black people. That's our challenge, right?
Explain that.
People who are on the wrong side of digital opportunity that will never be able to experience AI in the way that you talk about it. This Congresswoman right here has been an advocate and a champion for actually closing the digital divide. Come on, y'all gotta give another. And it's just really important for us, and I agree with you. We need to also figure out how do we develop the ecosystem for equality so that people do not have to think about, well, if I want to actually upskill, well, where do I do that? We have an administration that's taken that money back when there were many opportunities over the course of the years, which is what I talk about in the book, where people are just trying to find a place to get online. So I think until we actually parse out equity in all these areas, it becomes much more challenging for certain people to go and get the skills that you need.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
I'm enjoying this spicy conversation between family right now. But building upon that, occupational segregation and inequitable access to job training have long shaped employment outcomes. How do we ensure that the AI era doesn't replicate or deepen disparities, but instead creates real pathways to higher wage, future-proof careers for Black workers?
So occupational segregation is alive and well, right? We've been, my colleagues here have indicated that quite a bit. And yes, open source platforms like ChatGPT could very well be part of the solution. We don't know that yet because there's not a lot of research out there that actually stipulates that. There's work that's happening in state and local jurisdictions to implement policies to be able to ensure that we as Black folks do get access. But there are also other programs that are out there that are not receiving the type of transformative grants, the type of support that are necessary. I sit on the board of the Knowledge House, which is a multi-city nonprofit that has been in the game for over a decade and has been providing training, high-tech training to Black individuals across multiple cities. And so in my mind, to be able to sort of begin to, to be able to sort of mitigate some of those occupational segregation issues, we need to, in addition to public policy initiatives, we need to also invest in the knowledge houses of the world. We need to ensure that those entities are able to train, right, receive funding, right, because we know who gets funded usually. It's the bigger tech organization or companies. We need to provide, ensure that philanthropists support those organizations who are providing skills training for Black individuals. And we need to ensure that we support individuals like myself who are already in the C-suite and who are few and far between in our positions. So 3 things. 1, invest in those talent pipeline programs. 2, support public policy. And then 3, support us already in the leadership positions because it does tend to be really, really lonely when we get up there.
If I can double down on what she said, absolutely. She doesn't know it, but I used to sit on the advisory board for the Knowledge House. Yeah, I did. They were also a grantee of the work that me and my colleagues was doing at Microsoft. So as a part of this in 2020, I was asked to create what ended up being the nonprofit tech acceleration for Black and African American communities, and it was to do exactly what she said. When you look at major corporations such as the Microsoft and others, they have their resources. They're innovating. They have the ability to create things that can make change, but the real power and work is happening with the knowledge houses. These organizations that's working at a hyper-local level in your communities with your sons, your daughters, your nieces, and your nephews, and they're the ones who are often left out from the needed resources. They're asked to do the work, but they're not getting what they need. So at least for me and for us, it was how do we equip them with the technology that they need to be able to operate like a large, even for-profit entity. At the end of the day, these nonprofits should have all the tools just like everybody else can so that they can have what they need to have the highest impact on whatever their mission is. And ultimately that is education and skilling. So I will double down on what she says, that we really need to pour more into these entities because these are the ones with these leaders who are saying, okay, how can we get AI and education and everything into the hands of our young people?
So I agree, they just gave me one. I agree as well on everything you're saying. I mean, trusted resources and institutions with our communities are really critical. We just did a report at Brookings with one of our non-residents. Black women in particular are less trustworthy of AI, and not because of the technology, but because of the institutions. And so we have to ensure that the trust of the institution is still pervasive so that people will go to our local organizations in ways and be willing to actually open up and use technology. But I want to flip the conversation as well on, we have to ensure if we're actually going to get access to equitable training, and I think the question was avoid occupational segregation, is we have to make sure that our independent agencies uphold the compliance standards that ensure that we have access to get into the door. And when we're in the door, that we could stay there. Organizations like the Equal Opportunity Commission and others, just under the previous administration, put guidance in place so that we didn't experience the type of disparate impact. So it really starts with changing the nature of structures so that we're able to get into these spaces. I think it's also important for us to have people who are designing these AI tools be us and do it for us. Because representation really matters. You can, in my 30 plus years, I know I only look 25, but I'm a lot older, right? But in my 30 plus years, I know I try, but my kids remind me that I'm not. But in my 30 plus years of doing this work in technology, the challenge that we often find is that we come to the party late, and we also come into the party using products that are not necessarily designed for us. When I was doing computer technology work, and I talk about this in the book, in labs throughout Chicago, it was not so much that people didn't know how to use email or get online and use the internet. They were afraid. And they were also like, well, what does this mean? Because maybe it was not written to be culturally responsive to how we learn. And so I think it's important as who sits at the designer table will also help us to stop some of these systemic inequalities that can persist in these products. And then I would also say the other thing that we need to do in addition to trusted institutions, there's this big myth about AI that we all have to use it. And we have to use everything that it's available. That if there's AI integrated in a training program, we have to say, okay, I gotta use it because that's what everybody else is using, or we gotta use generative AI. I would actually flip that question. Perhaps we should become much more informed consumers to figure out what programs can support us better. So there's a lot of free resources at universities. But think about it. How many historically black colleges and universities offer free AI training? There are a lot of open resources that we use right now to learn. I do the same thing when I'm trying to look up a definition. But how do we also know that that's not giving us misinformation or it's incorrect? And so I think we really need to do a better job. I call it like the better housekeeping seal for job training programs that we know will be all-encompassing of the attributes that we have as a community and allow much more trust and safety in what those products do.
You know, I
And
got
to
something.
the-
Oh, go ahead.
Please.
No, you go. Nick.
I'm gonna be really quick. To that point, to that exact point about building trust, safety, we at the ACOU actually we have an org-wide internship program, and over the past year or so, the head of our analytics function is in the audience here, partnered with at HBCU, Howard University, to be able to actually bring in through Howard individuals who are data scientists, but who not only want to get the experience, but actually learn what responsible AI looks and feels like in practice. And so to your point, it's the guardrails, right? What does that look like, not just philosophically, but in practice? And so we're excited about the partnership with Howard, thanks to Dr. Ahmed, who is in the audience here, who really saw the vision, and of course, it wouldn't have been possible if I think organizations like the ACLU hadn't already been thinking about how do we prioritize systemic equality? What does that look like? So,
just to add on to the occupational segregation, part of the issue, especially with young people, is the lack of understanding career pathways. The whole K through 12 system needs to be overhauled. Kids learn, at this point, all they learn is job titles. So at the end of the day, they really don't understand the roles that are really out there. I talk to so many, along anything tech, and they say, yeah, cybersecurity. Well, what cybersecurity do you want to do? I don't know. They just heard somebody else say it. Especially if you're in the DMV area, you can make a lot of money because there's a lot of cybersecurity jobs, and that's all they know. So what's happening is by the time they get to be in the workforce, they don't have the skills to actually do the roles that's needed. So a lot of what we need to do is expose our young people at an early age to those exact pathways. What is it that you want to do? Have them be as detailed and granular as possible, and how do we skill them to what they want to do and not just these defined majors and job titles. And then secondly, she's absolutely right, and if we do that work, we can then solve the issue of not enough of us on the other end actually creating the tools.
Can I just add to that? I just
Please
want to
do,
say,
please do.
You know, I think you're so right with that. I think the conversation that we have when we look at occupational segregation and skilling is that we tend to break it up by K through 12 and then college, right? I actually believe there's a K through 20 ramp, and particularly in AI. Let me share why. It used to be that if you wanted to be a cybersecurity specialist, you would do it through certification or you do it through some kind of program. If you wanted to be a computer scientist, and there was many, many efforts, particularly led by the Congressional Black Caucus, to get more STEM engineers and more computer scientists. AI is a lot different because AI shows up from K through the end of college. You understand what I'm saying? And AI, and I think this speaks to everybody that's in this room, you're actually exposed to it at all points of life. Meaning, when you go on your phone, there's a little bit of AI. When you're watching a movie, there's a recommendation AI that's working. Some of you might, she said she got a sprinkler system with AI, okay? My husband still has to go out there and water the grass, so don't say that loud, okay? But I saw a refrigerator with AI that actually can tell you, do you have enough food in your refrigerator to make the meal for that day using AI? I think there's something different about this technology that also, for those of you who do workforce development, may require us to break our paradigm. It doesn't necessarily require a kid to be a data scientist, a computer scientist, but it also requires them to have some intuitive nature for how this technology works, first and foremost. That might stop us from telling black kids when they use generative AI they're cheating versus kids who live in higher resource school districts, right? Because most kids go to college and they know how to use AI, but there's a bunch of kids who start in K through 12 that have no idea, and then they learn it in college. So I think we have to figure out, and I don't have the answer today, but how do you take a much more distributed technology, fit that into a traditional workforce paradigm, but also make sure that there's high literacy of how this is changing the way that we live, we learn, and we earn. And I think that's the area which becomes more complicated, because just like with broadband, we really didn't have a scan of what these jobs people could do. We just knew that they needed the training, and then we had to find out where they fit. So I love what you said.
Absolutely, and I just want to say something about the evolution of the panel. Like, we started out in a spicy conversation amongst family, then we went to a fist bump and all this alignment, so I'm very much so here for it. But I do want to kind of wrap us up, because we've been having such a great conversation, but I do want to know, as we close, let's turn to action. We've kind of been discussing it throughout, but what is one concrete step that our audience members can take now to ensure equity is built into the future of work?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important for us to understand that, again, going back to my model, the evolution of AI, that it starts, as it was already mentioned, in the hiring process. There are neural network AI where people are giving videotaped screening interviews that actually use neural network AI to determine the suitability of their employment. How many times did they smile? Did they blink? We know that employers are using AI to sift through applications, and the research tells us if your name is Dewana, I got one of the British names, Nicole, so I'll probably get through a little bit, right? But if you have an ethnic-sounding name, Dr. Tanya Sweeney spoke about this, that there's a possibility that your resume will be kicked out. So we have to start there if we're actually going to raise awareness. So I think a call to action is for everybody in this room to know that this is happening. And you may not even be aware when you submit your resume or cover letter that you might be stopped before you even get the phone call. And then I think it's also important for us to remember that these systems are trained on what I could like to consider both good data and traumatized data. And traumatized data in AI systems comes with the baggage of historical inequities, as well as, based on who's sitting at the table, what their values, norms, and assumptions are about the world. And that impacts us as employment. As a sociologist by training, there was so much work about it's not your qualifications for the job, but it's who you know. And so we're just in a different period as a call to action. My call to action to folks would be raise your awareness that this is what's happening with these systems, because we've not yet got to a policy juncture of good disclosure and transparency. And a project that we're working on at the Equity Lab right now, and I'll close here, 400,000 plus black women have been removed from the workplace. And there are a lot of folks trying to figure out how to navigate the new sphere. Some of us in this room were federal workers. So what we've been trying to do through my lab at the Brookings Institution is to do what we've been talking about here. Where's the good AI, right? Because there's some good AI where it can help you tone down that email or that cover letter because maybe you putting too much of you into it. So you got to run it through AI and say, oh yeah, take that word out. Make me sound a little bit less mad today, right? My infant just cried all night and I got an interview, right? Augmented reality might do some simulation. So we're trying to develop what that repertoire looks like and what those products are so people have that toolkit available to them.
My call to action is seize the opportunity. And we've been using a couple words here, workers, ultimately consumers. How do we be producers and entrepreneurs? And again, there has not been a piece of technology that has come out that can allow someone who never thought that they could be an entrepreneur. All the barriers that typically existed. I don't know how to do this. I don't have money for this. I can't find this. I can't do this. You can now leverage AI to build out any app that you want. It can create a go-to-market strategy for you, social calendar. It can do everything for you. So as we think about those bias systems, and as we wait for our kids to get old enough to maybe replace those workers who are in the bias systems, you have the opportunity now to be able to say, you know what, let me build the next system right now that won't be biased. And I think that is the real call to action, the real opportunity. I had a conversation before here with someone who took the matters in his own hand and built a solution that's being used by the city of Baltimore to help beautify the city and make sure that that city has the things that it needs. He didn't say, you know what, let me go work for them. No, let me build that solution. And AI is the thing that can do it for you. So take advantage of it while it's the wild, wild west. Yes. While, all these different policies and regulations stopping you from monetizing, making money. There's a whole lot of other people that is making tons of money on AI right now. You might as well join them while you can.
And I will end here. I will piggyback off of what both of my colleagues said here with saying three things. One, the point you made about, about know your rights, essentially. The ACLU has built a sort of a repository of know your rights resources for individuals to be able to educate themselves whenever they come up against hiring discrimination or sort of a tool that's being used to sort of discriminate against them in hiring. So it's on our website. Also civil and criminal defense attorneys, lots of resources out there for you to be able to be empowered to understand how that algorithm is labeling your client as risky. And so, because we know that there are life-altering consequences when, clients are labeled that way. So resources exist out there on aclu.org. To your point about, skills training, leveraging these platforms to do just that. I think it's fantastic and a great idea, and it's one of the things that is helpful, right? That the Knowledge House, I'll go back to Knowledge House again really quickly, provides is, you need to learn Python, great. You need to sort of upskill on a specific programming language so that you can then learn to build the next ChatGPT. Organizations like the Knowledge House and so many others provide you with that skill so that to your point, you can be your own boss. And they're free. They're free, unlike those that used to exist. So for sure, and organizations like the Knowledge House also pay you for their fellowship programs too. It's not a lot of money, but then this way you're learning and and getting a little stipend as well. I'll end with one thought, and which is that we have this platform today with 4 Black amazing professionals, and I'm including myself because I think I'm amazing too, And it wouldn't be possible without the vision of the CBCF, right? And so building thought leadership for those of us on this stage matters, right? Because our voices are oftentimes, to your point, not included in the equation. And I applaud the CBCF folks for doing this, because we need more spaces to amplify, elevate Black voices. Black professionals in technology look like this, and we need more of these platforms.
And we're not all computer scientists, because I'm a
No,
sociologist. You're a lawyer by trade?
No, I'm not a lawyer.
Oh, then okay.
I'm a technologist, though, I'm not a lawyer.
Okay, so you do need more sociologists.
I have a sociology background.
Oh, okay.
And I would say to Darrell's point, when you talk about monetizing, using AI to monetize things, I sat on a panel on Wednesday with a young lady from Black Paper Party, I believe it is. She essentially used ChatGPT to help her come up with ideas that she is now selling in Walmart and Dollar General and Family Dollar. Like, it's a possibility. So I just really want to thank our panelists. But before we end, I do want to take some audience questions.
Hi, Daniel. Yes, we have some Q&A questions. Thank you for filling out the QR code to our audience. The first question is about the environment and AI. And the question is, how might the environmental costs of AI, such as increased emissions and water usage, disproportionately affect Black communities already facing environmental justice? And then the second part is, conversely, how could AI be harnessed to address climate change in ways that directly benefit Black communities?
So, I'll put it out there because I just testified before one of the esteemed committees on the House side as a minority witness. There is a rush to actually build more data centers to support the power that is going to be needed for these searches. So I'll give you like the layperson. Daryl probably not gonna like this, but I'm known for simplifying this stuff. So a person once told me, ChatGPT search is like eating a hamburger and drinking a water at one time. Then you multiply that by 1 trillion people, and it begins to give you the extent of energy that is needed to power search, generative AI. But then you add on that regular search, et cetera, and obviously we're going to face a power crisis. It is very, very important that we think about the community benefits as we actually accelerate power systems within communities, particularly communities of color, and that we're not doing it by expediting the remediation process, where we're not looking at what the environmental controls concerns are going to be. Because obviously, I've seen one of the Substacks is about tall as me. It needs water, it needs power, and all those other things. And in the hearing that I was in, one of the members said, "Why is it just taking so long to turn on the switch to the nuclear reactor?" True statement, is on record. And I think, again, we have to have a voice as policymakers, as citizens. Why do you think I live in Northern Virginia? Why do you think you always see them on the news? I think in PG County, they just had a community meeting. Be informed and be part of that process, because in the end, you may not experience the outputs now, but in 5 to 10 years, you will. And I think that's a really short answer to a longer conversation around the impacts on the environment.
Can I jump in? It's one of those fights that may not be able to win in terms of the race for AI is moving so fast that being able to stop these data centers from being built, to me, I don't know how that's going to happen. People can try.
Yeah, so I got something to say on that too.
Oh, no. So here's the thing. The large language models, yes, require those large data centers, but we do know that large language models are known to hallucinate more often than not. Smaller models don't require that much footprint. They don't require that much, I think you want to, yeah, they don't require that much investment, right? And so the decisions that are, that technologists are making to sort of build those bigger data centers, because they do want more power, more resources to be able to support those foundational models. But
No, go
Go ahead. But the reality of it is that we do know that smaller frontier models actually work way better for a lot of those same tasks than the LLMs do.
You're actually making the point I was getting at is, no, you're fine. You're fine. And for those that may not understand, LLM, large language model, small language model, the innovation of the small language models came after the large language models. So what I was getting at is we can't stop these data centers from being built as fast as we may want to, but it's actually ironic that if we use the AI that's currently available, we can innovate on it so that it becomes much smaller and use less power and things of that sort. And to me, that is much more in our control, educating our people, have more people innovating on this technology. That is something we can put in the power of our hands and actually do something about, versus actually thinking you're going to go against the big tech companies who are aligned with these people and that people and that people and that people. So
Okay, so I want to respond to that.
uh-oh.
So I'm gonna take off my glasses too, because I got a little glare when I turn over this way. Listen, I do think AI is amazing, right? I mean, I sit there and I don't necessarily have to think about what my kids want for a holiday or their birthday because the recommendation algorithm tells me that. I think AI is amazing because my playlist is curated to all the music I want to listen to. But when you start dealing with my health care, AI is not that amazing. In my book, I met a woman in the parking lot because I was going around talking to people about their digital access. She was crying because she didn't have a library card. I followed her to the parking lot only to find out she had stage 4 breast cancer, and that's why she needed a library card, because she couldn't communicate with her doctor. I was asked a couple of weeks later when the book came out, would AI have helped her catch her cancer? And I said no, because Black women's bodies are not represented in those data sets, because they don't consider the livelihood of our health. So I do agree with you. It is a great opportunity to seize the moment, but seizing the moment does not mean continuing to surrender your data, continuing to surrender your trauma, continuing to surrender your joy into systems that may not necessarily care about you on the environmental side, may actually be running additional pollution to what people had in Flint, maybe recommissioning nuclear reactors that were supposed to be closed in the first place. We should be carefully thinking about these high-risk applications, and this is where I think the European Union is just a little better job than us, because those consequences for Black communities are very hard to retrace. I've been working on a paper on what a policy agenda looks like for the Black community. I'm a researcher, it's stuff I sit in. It's just really important for us to feel that we have some agency. May I ask a quick question to show you what I mean? Raise your hand in this room if you have a patent, a trademark, a copyright on anything AI. 2 people.
Awesome.
Three. So my mom used to tell me, if you're not in the kitchen, you're on the menu. How often do you want to be on the menu? I think that's what our brother's saying here. Build and innovate, but it also means you pick the ingredients that you want in that bread pudding. You know what works for you in that gumbo. It's just really important in the race that is happening internationally with AI that we do not get consumed as the fatalities and casualties with wide and wealth gap just simply because it's here. I don't believe in that. I've been studying internet policy for 30 years. There were people that still had a record player, even though we went to CDs and cassettes. And guess what? Now the kids want the records back, okay? So it's just one of those things that we have to just continue to educate our community before we jump full in.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How do we not pick and choose? And you kind of said it. We was talking about these data centers. These data centers power everything. So this question this just came up recently because of generative AI. But these are the same data centers that's powering the algorithm on your Facebook feed.
Oh, of course.
And how, and there's more to you. So people, how can we pick and choose? Okay, it's good for this one, but it's not good for that one.
I'm not saying that it's a data center for an application. I'm saying when you build a data center, you should have some understanding of the community as
Agreed.
to how is this. So I just had this conversation the other day. So many of us live in areas with very poor or weak smart grids, energy grids. Storm comes, the lights go out each and every time. I lived in a place like that in Alexandria. If a company is coming in to build a data center, upgrade my grid.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. If you need more water, upgrade my irrigation system. I don't need to sprinkle water on my plants and my lawn. I just want to have clean water to drink. So I think that there's a conversation that we can have around what are some community benefits that ensure that these data centers actually work. Data centers are going to create a lot of construction jobs.
Yes.
But it only takes about 100 people to sit in that data center. So it's not going to be a post-economic output on the labor force, although they're getting $600, $700 billion from taxpayers to build them. So I just think, again, it goes back to raising our literacy and awareness of these issues. That's all I would actually request people to do.
Awesome. Like I sat here and I forgot that was the moderator. This has been really, really good. Do we have time for one more question? Can we take one directly from the audience, or?
There's
Yes,
a
the
mic.
person who has a question, you can go up to the mic in the middle of the room.
I wanted to ask if there's an opportunity to build wind, solar, and nuclear power as we build these data centers to minimize the economical disadvantage to having that.
Well, I mean, there are going to recommission, so it's already been publicly announced that some of the tech companies are going to recommission deactivated nuclear facilities. And if Congress had its way, it would be quicker, right? But they're going through the process right now with regards to that. I mean, I think you also, in giving an answer to that, you have to think about just also how the country is funding energy and the extent to which the investments in solar are going to be equally sufficient. I'll give you a perfect example. For years, Danielle and I fought for broadband access, and broadband terminates from fiber. But there was a person that came in and started talking about satellite. So now the idea is to shift it from fiber to satellite. Challenge is, most folks of color live in cities where satellite is hard to function without a lot of space junk and interference. And then in rural areas, there's still the potential it could be expensive, right? So it's gonna move to satellite, but again, there are conditions in policy that sort of set the stage for that. So to respond to your question, I would ask you to go back and think about and look at some of the policy shifts, and that will answer your question. I mean, all you got to do is put in, you want to use generative AI right now, just go into generative AI and say, where are the nuclear reactors going to be? And it will tell you clearly where they are going to be. See, that's how I use generative AI. I was on a panel with somebody the other day. They pulled out their phone. Somebody asked a question like that. He actually cheated a little bit because he pulled out his phone. He gave this really good response, and then he told everybody afterwards he used generative AI. I said, listen, no fair.
I think I saw one more hand in the audience. You want to come over to the mic? Yeah, we got like 3 minutes. That's a good amount of time.
No more energy questions.
Yeah, no more energy questions.
Don't worry, that's out of my area of expertise to even ask you. So thank you all. My name's Erin Bogan. I'm with the Gates Foundation overseeing our impact measurement work for our U.S. side. And one of the questions I have for you is just what would you recommend or what advice would you give to philanthropic organizations at this time to position our community to be in line with this movement and at the helm of it?
I mean, just really piggybacking off of what we were saying earlier of how important the knowledge houses are. I see my friend Steve from Dream Academy. They're doing a lot with educating, especially the Black community in AI. Is really just how do we bridge the gap from those who are creating these technology to put them in the rooms with the knowledge houses, the Dream Academy, so that as they are innovating, we are bringing that innovation to the community level as quickly as possible. We think about the digital divide. Heck, I will say this: AI has caused that divide to probably grow to grow even wider. because those that are creating the technology are creating it in their silos. They're creating it in their silos, they're figuring out how to monetize it, and then, oh, by the way, now you can get it. We gotta push these two entities closer together. For me, one of the tactics that I like to use is, hey, ultimately, it's in your best interest, because these are the people that you are going to be your consumers. You want to make money off of them at some point, right? Okay, well, let's put them in the economic position to even buy whatever it is that you're doing. So to me, that is the path that we really need to do as nonprofits and philanthropic organizations, really putting pressure on these corporations to leverage you all as an extension to continue to educate and skill our people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's such a, took the words right out of my mouth. In addition, their organization, so we know that funding usually goes to the few, right? Power dynamics at play is amazing, right? And that power dynamics is so tight that there is no desire to redistribute the power from the few to the many. Philanthropy organizations like yours have that ability, right? So in addition to, to the point that my colleagues here was just saying about about providing transformative grants to organizations, community-based organizations already doing the work, the really hard work to upskill. There are organizations in civil society, like the one that I work for, that have a few people of color who are data scientists, who are sociologists, and who are doing this work already. And so transformative grants to support those organizations, the individuals in those organizations to upskill, right? And to develop, AI-enabled system, may not be Gen AI, but AI-enabled system for ongoing monitoring and evaluation of those AI systems. Because what's happening is that more often than not, there's a lot of AI tools being deployed, publicly available, yes, it's great, but no one's paying attention to evaluating them and assessing the downstream implications on the individuals that are consuming that technology. So transformative grants can go to organizations in civil society and targeting, not just upskilling, but targeting those types of initiatives. Ongoing monitoring and evaluation should not be an afterthought. It should be part of the actual design and deployment of these systems.
And I would just say for foundations, this is a pivotal moment for them to rethink their grant-making process and to think about AI and technology sort of in two ways, right? One way is, how does a philanthropic community, with everything that they're actually filling in the gaps for right now, help community-based organizations use AI for their own functions? So sort of the conversation that we've been having, how does a foundation go in to many of the institutions that we've mentioned and really help them think about the use of AI? The other thing I would say, foundations are very good at providing social capital and seed capital for entrepreneurs who are trying products that are for us, by us, and really taking risks that have substantive or minimal impact or threat because it's coming with the foundation, sort of like the R&D. And then I would say the third thing, foundations themselves should not be completely intrigued in using AI for their grant-making process. Because the data that the foundation still depends on could often be gruffy. Somebody may not have had all the formal documents that can be put through an AI system. There might be the mention of particular communities or impacted communities. We have to just have foundations also be careful that they're not using AI to identify who they want to fund. Because we'll wrap it up, but as we've mentioned, and again, just shameless plug, this is the title of my book, Digitally Invisible, downstairs by the podcast booth. But look, we are invisible in these data sets. And if we get philanthropy to actually rely upon the data that's training these models that often doesn't include us, you won't find us. And I think philanthropy has to be really careful of also being enticed. It's like employers. Everybody uses AI at a workplace now, right? The same thing with foundations and law firms, et cetera. But just be careful of the enticement to say, let's all use AI to find grantees, fund them, evaluate them, because guess what? We're not gonna be seen in its entirety. So I would just say, keep that in mind in terms of how you integrate it into your work as well.
Absolutely. So just 30 seconds. I want to give everybody here an
You
opportunity.
giving us more time?
No.
She over there talking about wrap up.
Does anyone have anything they want to promote really quick?
Well, I'm gonna do it for her.
Bro,
Tell us one more time where we can get this book from. What's the
Exactly.
name of this book?
That's what I'm
and
trying
where we
to
can get
do.
this book from.
So I promoted my book, but
Exactly.
also I'm at the Center for Technology Innovation at the Brookings Institution. I've been there. Okay, so she's wonderful and just curious and special. I am the only Black person who leads a non-race related center at the Brookings Institution for 10 years.
Absolutely.
Tech policy. So get to know me. This is what I do every day, and my work intersects technology and social justice. But follow that, the Tech Tank podcast newsletter, as well as the AI Equity Lab. We want to see all of you. We call everybody here, what I call you, Danielle, an unhidden figure.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to see, the unhidden figure.
Wow, I do not have a book, but I will be getting her book. We realized that we wanted to, at the ACLU, that we wanted to be able to put our finger on the scale in terms of how these technologies are not only designed but deployed. And to do that, we needed to stop having conversations in silos. So over the past summer, we created a space. It's called the Civil Rights in a Digital Age AI Summit. It will be an annual event. You're going to come next year, my girl. It was an exciting one because it pulled together, invite only 80 people, but we had 2,000 people online for our first event. And so we'll be doing that yearly, and I invite everybody here to be on the lookout. I'll leave my information back there so that you can reach out to me when the time comes for me to send you all information about the affair. But it's really exciting. We have to be intentional about creating spaces for this conversation and articulating clearly what safeguards mean and how Black workers, Black students, Black folks can be a part of that conversation.
And few things. I'm all over the place. But definitely at Darrell Book on all social, LinkedIn, but really excited about a new project that for any nerds in the room, working with GitHub and really focus on bridging the gap and bringing developer resources to those in our communities, and as well as that, helping them to understand how they can be the new developers that's leveraging AI to build solutions. So.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to go ahead and plug myself. The Miseducation of Technology podcast. We talk about all these issues, but we also give actionable solutions to these issues. So please check it out on Apple and Spotify podcasts. But thank you to my panelists here today. I think a takeaway that we could talk about is just essentially learning. Like, we need to learn the risk, but we should also be learning the opportunities that this technology can present. So thank you so much for joining us today. That concludes this panel discussion.
Thank you.